Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of Chatham Township Committee Meeting for Thursday, May 26th, 2016. Greg, has adequate notice been given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given to both the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 8th, 2016. Notice was posted on the bulletin board of the main hallway of the municipal building on January 8th, 2016. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 8th, 2016.
Thank you. Would everyone please rise for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gallup? Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Here.
Mayor Ritter?
Here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Favor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to reports. Mike, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. The month of May is a very busy month for our Municipal Alliance here in town. If you've driven by the high school, you'll have seen the rec car that they put out there every year as a reminder, coming up to prom season and graduation season for everybody to use good sense. Also, the signs around town reminding parents that host lose the most. So again, just a reminder from the Municipal Alliance on that. The Open Space Committee has been a couple things to report. The Averitt property, they had a kind of a experimental work session just for themselves this past week, 10 days, just to plot out the proposed walkways there on the Averitt property off of Hillside Avenue. And they will be planning a public work day asking for volunteers later in the summer. So to really get that path up and running. They're also working with some Eagle Scouts to get some a kiosk at the start of the trailhead and some benches and perhaps a picnic table along the trail as well. And also, if you haven't been over to the Giralda Preserve lately, the Morris County has really been working hard over there and maintaining the trails and tending some of the brush, upgrading some of the, removing some of the old fencing that was internally within the property, and it's really again, continuing to shape up nicely and worth a regular visit just to keep an eye on all the work that's being done over there at the Giralda Preserve. DPW is happy to report that the skate park is up and running. The ramps had been repaired and now the cracked surfaces have been filled. Rich reports that the kids were there with their skates within hours, so it's being well used already. Also, they're happy to report that their part of the colony pool prep work is done, and the pool's work getting ready to open up this weekend. And the first auction of town equipment was held earlier this spring, and the results are in, and the report is that it was just a tad over $11,000, and every item on the list was purchased and successfully removed from our DPW yard. So everything from a couple of vehicles down to a couple of lawnmowers and a lot of things in between. So a successful event.
Very good. Thank you.
That's it.
Wet spring sports season is coming to a conclusion. I do want to say, having first time playing on the, not me playing, but my kids I coach playing on the actual grass fields as opposed to the turf fields. I mean, Tuesday was an example of raining and it not stopping until like midday, and you know, the field was still playable with a minimal amount of work on Tuesday night. So, considering half the game seemed like they were rained out, to be able to put the game in was real nice. And so I know DPW did a lot of work on the fields this year, and you know, continues to be a great facility for the town. Foul ball. So I remember you saying that one of the nets wasn't high enough, and there was talk about raising it. I'm sure no matter how high we raise it, you're going to think that every ball that goes over could have been saved by another 2 feet. Is it the back left field that can be raised, or which one is it?
No, let's first of all narrow it down. Which field are we talking about?
Okay, so the natural graph all the way back to the left
At Shunpike or Nash?
at Shumpike.
I don't remember. The first base side, that's where the detention pond is?
That's where the detention pond.
That's what you're talking about? Yeah.
No, actually, that's not where it's just where the
That's Shunpike 2, we
it's
refer
just
to
where the
that.
woods are. It just seemed. I remember you mentioned that thought was being given to raising the netting, a couple feet. Is that something that hard to do? Or?
This is, no, nothing like that's hard to do, but I don't recall until you're bringing it up again that it's really been an issue. I thought we kind of got past that. I thought we made some modifications the first year to extend the fence further down towards first base, but we can look at that
So
again.
it's not, again, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not sure that it's not the length, it's the height.
No, I understand.
And
So
I'm
a lot
not
of-
sure that he raised it 2 feet. The next coach who would play would say, you know what, every ball's going over if you raise another 2 feet. So I'm just saying maybe you can take a look at it. It just seems like there's a lot of balls are going over that could be, and the price of balls, Chatham plays with
No,
first class baseball. So.
All right, we'll look at that.
This could be the coaching. They need to get that swing around a little earlier.
That's true. And that's beyond my pay scale.
A lot earlier, because it's the right-handed batter that's slicing it off into the pond.
And just I would have said it, but I'm on the home team side, Rich. If you could check the gate that goes back and forth, it's stuck and the kids can't get it now going to bat. If you could just check that, it's on the home side of that field. It has to be adjusted. I would have told you off record, but I just forgot. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Karen?
Alrighty, thank you, Your Honor. As busy as it's been down at that end of the dais, it seems pretty quiet from a lot of the perspectives that I've been involved in. Our Tri-Town 55-plus group did meet yesterday with many members of the community who wanted to show up. It was an open meeting and discussing some of the survey results. So not all the minutes from that meeting have been in yet, but it's nice to know that everybody's being proactive to try and gather information and continue to keep our finger on the pulse of an age-friendly, what it means to be an age-friendly community. Let's see, from a utilities perspective, I will defer to the experts. We're fortunate enough to have representatives here from New Jersey American Water as well as JCP&L. So we'll hear it right from the horse's mouth in that regard. And that's it for me.
Kevin?
No reports.
All right, just a couple of reports to the Communications Committee. I think everyone saw that we put out the May-June newsletter this past week online. Encourage everyone to take a look at that. Perspective video also went out. This one, again, we highlighted before, mentioned, featured the EMS team. And just want to thank Tom Salvis again for his efforts in putting these videos together. They've been tremendously popular. And again, a really great way of pulling the curtain back on the people behind the scenes who make our town work so well. Our website, slowly but surely, we're making progress on that. We've distributed it to several committee members here to review and give their input and feedback. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have that out for public display, as it were. Colony Pool, I don't know if, Tom, if you're going to touch on that later? Or should I pass over it? All right,
Chatham Township did launch the Navy. Chatham Township Navy launched the log roll. So
The log roll is now floating in Colony Pool, which opens Saturday at 12 noon. So I know there's been some great response, and people are excited for that. Reminder, the suicide prevention event is taking place this Thursday. I can say that without tearing up this time. But I encourage everyone to please come on out, 6:30. It's going to be, we've got a great response. A lot of people have sent me emails, personal emails of experience of family, friends who've been impacted by this. And I just encourage everyone to come on out here. It's a very important issue and the rest. And then this Saturday, actually, I'm sorry, on Monday, the Green Village Fire Department is hosting Memorial Day celebration or events, remembrance, 8:30 in the morning. I don't know if Kevin is our our veteran here wants to say something, he traditionally is the one who speaks to these sort of things. But just on behalf of the committee, obviously it's a time for us all to reflect and remember for those who sacrificed on behalf of our nation, and for them we're eternally grateful.
Well said. Thank you. I think you covered it.
Very well. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Just the Wickham Woods, I reported last meeting, the paving is still tentatively scheduled for the third week in June. Going to give another week before we just try to confirm with the contractor before we more aggressively try to get notices out to the public. I just don't want to prematurely notify them and then have to notify them. Yes, we had postponed the week. I just want to make sure the contractor's schedule is firmer than what he's telling me now. Phase 2, we did budget Phase 2 in the last capital ordinance that was done for road improvements, and so that project will be ready to bid shortly. So I'll coordinate that with Tom on getting that advertised and that project moving. That Phase 2 is focusing on the other portion, the other half of the Wickham Woods area, the Hampton, Peppermill, Stanford, Thornley, that area. And that'll complete the issues that we've had in that neighborhood for a very long time regarding the sump pumps. So we'll get the next round. Woodland sidewalk, I have done a preliminary layout of the sidewalk. We do have wetlands in the area. I was trying to avoid having to go for a wetlands permit, but unfortunately it's unavoidable. I'm going to have to apply for a wetlands transition area permit. It's a general permit. It's relatively straightforward, but unfortunately, just looking at the constraints that are out there, I'm going to have to apply for that. So we'll see a little delay in getting that bid out, but I know the general permit that's required is relatively processed quickly at the DEP, surprisingly for that particular permit. So I'll just keep updated on that. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks, John. Tom? Good. Chief, you have anything? Rich? All right, moving on to other additional reports. As Karen indicated, it's kind of utility night. So I guess we have a group of gentlemen from New Jersey, American Water. I don't know if Nick or who's going to come to the mic, or if you want to come on up, introduce yourself. We had a pre-meeting beforehand, myself, Karen, and Tom, to meet with these gentlemen. So I appreciate, again, you guys taking the time to come meet with us and talk about the important project and work that you're doing on Southern Boulevard and just increasing the communications between our two groups going forward. So thank you again for your help.
Thank you, Your Honor and Council, for having us here, giving us some of your time. If I could do a brief 3 to 4 minute just rundown of the project.
Sure.
My name is Nick Pinto. I'm Operations Manager for New Jersey American Water. And here to my right is Ken Taylor, who is the Construction Supervisor for the job that we're going to talk about tonight. So just to give you some general facts. The project is approximately $1.5 million. It is replacing 1.5 mile of 8-inch main, cast iron, that was installed in 1940. It'll be replaced with 8-inch ductile iron. In addition to the mains, there'll be approximately 83 valves of various sizes that will be replaced, 15 fire hydrants, 70 services and meter chambers will be installed. Just to note that this main that we're going to be replacing has no bearing on the 24-inch main that is already in the street currently, and it's a transmission main. The location of the project, as you know, is Southern Boulevard from Woodmont Drive to Fairmount Avenue. The reasons why the project is being done, based on our computer model prioritization and various parameters of main breaks and water quality, due to multiple breaks we had over the years, with in the last 5 years we've had 6 breaks. That's the reason why we elected to replace this main. Our contractor is Montana Construction. Montana will be contacting the local police for traffic control, and at this time there is no detours projected at this time. Work hours. The work will be performed between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. until summer recess. After summer recess, the hours will be 9 to 4 p.m. The start date. The work started last week. We did some test holes over 4 sanitary mains, and we made a wet tap on Woodmont this week. We're reviewing this data to align our main on where it's going to go in the road. We expect the pipe job to start after the 31st. The main replacement will start on the 31st from Woodmount, go to Hampton, and that portion of the job should be completed by June 24th. That's the halfway point of the total job. The balance of the job to Fairmont should be done approximately by July 20th. After the main is installed, we also have service replacements to start. Again, they would start at Woodmount around July 21st, and we're hoping the completion date would be August 10th. Another part of the job would be side street tie-ins and the retirement of the old main. That is scheduled to start after August 10th and should be done by Labor Day. That's our projected time. Realize that this work is just a replacement of the main and temporary base to grade of the pavement in the road. Permanent restoration will be dictated by the county as to when we can do final paving and the scope of the paving to be done. Notifications. Postcards were mailed to anyone in the postal routes or area of the project late April. We also contacted the school bus company and notified them of the project and the start of the project. We dropped off door-to-door notices, and here I have, if you want to pass it out, I have copies of the postcards and the door hangers that were left for the town residents.
Do you have any postcards you can give to Alex and Ed here as well? You guys are with the press, they're probably...
There's some here. I'm not sure the number.
I can share the one you passed out to
Okay.
Bob and Mike if you want to take a look.
We dropped off the notices door to door to the affected customers about a week or more before the project was going to start. We then try to notify our customers a day before their service is replaced, and again the day of the service replacement is to be completed. We shut off the service for about an hour when we transfer the new service to the new main, so they're not going to be without service for more than an hour or two. And as I stated before, final paving currently is projected to be from the center line to the curb on the side of the road that we're working. The county, like I said, will dictate the total scope and will tell us when we could start the paving. We have emergency numbers that we can give out for customer service and for an inspector who will be on site to answer any calls or emergencies a customer may have. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Nick.
Okay?
Do you have any questions for Nick?
I have just a couple of questions. Do you have a staging area where you're going to leave your pipes and other things?
I wasn't at the pre-construction meeting, but I was told that two locations were identified by the town and offered to us to use. They normally deal with our construction company that would handle that. I currently don't have the locations on my list yet.
Okay, but one has been identified, you know, pipes aren't going to be laid on people's front lawns?
Correct.
Down, okay, very good. And the traffic?
Now, they might lay some pipe down while they're doing the work during the course of
Sure,
construction.
but they're not going to be piled up there?
Correct.
The traffic, we're taking it down to one lane, so it'll be flags on both ends coming down?
Certain points, there's room where they'll be able to alternate traffic. Some areas, they might have to take it down to one lane at certain times, but definitely not the whole time of the project. And like I said, we're adjusting the hours to coincide with the school hours, and then when school recesses, we'll go 1 hour longer just to help us complete the project sooner.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, and the police do Kenny mentioned the police are the ones that determine what the traffic control would be.
Right.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to say thanks again.
Thank you very much for having us.
all of you agreeing to come here and being so proactive. We've talked about communications a lot, and we've talked about resident satisfaction a lot, and knowing that the more people know, even if it's not necessarily what they want to hear, the more they know, the better off we all are. So for you to be proactive in that regard. We're very grateful for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just have one more question. The 8-inch pipe you said was from 1940s.
Correct.
You talked about the 24-inch pipe. What is the remaining life on that?
I don't know the vintage of the 24. Oh, it's from our water source project, which is 1990.
Okay.
So it's relatively, that, in our world, that's yesterday.
Very good.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys again for coming out tonight. Next, Rob, if you want to say a few words, tell us what's on your mind.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Committee. Rob Walden, Jersey Central Power and Light, 52 Chatham Road, City of Summit. We are asking for a rate increase, and I'm not used to asking for more money from folks, so this is a little new to me. We're asking for about a $6 per month rate increase over the current bills that we send out for your average customer. It's about a 6% increase for those folks. The last time we had a rate increase was 2003. We had a rate case in 2002, which we won. The BPU gave us a slight increase in our rates. In 2012, we had a rate case for the BPU. We asked for a little more money from Sandy. We also had a complaint filed by some activists against us, so the BPU kind of sided with both of us and gave us a wash. So we've not had a rate increase since 2003. In the last couple of years, we've had a 33% reduction in the number of outages, a 19% reduction in the time it takes to restore customers, and a 33% reduction in tree-related outages. So the investment we've been making in our infrastructure has yielded noticeable and measurable results. We want to continue to maintain that infrastructure at that high level and high degree, so we're asking for a small increase in the rates. It'll be about $142 million per year, all of which will get plowed into just those kind of improvements that we want to keep on making for folks. So wanted to come and let you know about that, get any feedback you might have. And that's why I'm here.
What does that average out to dollar-wise for?
About $6 per month for the typical residential customer. $5.58, I think, is the exact average number. We would still be the lowest priced electric utility amongst the 4 regulated utilities in the state of New Jersey.
There is a process, right, Rob, if people want to make comments?
Correct. We made a filing with the Board of Public Utilities on April 28th. The BPU will post opportunities for public hearings on our rate increase. You can always send letters to the BPU, of course, and tell them what you think about our performance, good, bad, or indifferent, and all of that gets weighed in. It's a political process like any other. You go before the planning board here locally or before a governing body. Same process with the BPU. We go in, state our case. The commissioners get a report from their staff. They review our books. They look at how much we're charging, what we're spending our money on. They look at everything, what we're doing in operations, external affairs. They even look at the fact that I'm here tonight and talking to you good folks. So it's a rather thorough investigation before they make the report to the BPU, and then they hear what folks have to say about our performance and make a decision.
Great. Is there any programs you have for seniors or others who may have challenges managing?
The state of New Jersey runs most of those programs, not the utilities. There was a time where the utilities, at least for electric, ran programs like green energy conversion, solar panels, assistance for seniors. Those have all been taken on by the Board of Public Utilities. So the short answer is no, not from JCP&L, but the state has plenty of things for folks in dire straits.
Gotcha. Anyone else? All right, thanks, Rob.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Right now, we'll open up to the hearing of citizens. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for a public hearing tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the hearing of citizens and we'll introduce our first ordinance. This is a ordinance 2016-16. It's ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, naming an unnamed street located in the Township of Chatham Memorial Way. For those of you who don't know, this is that triangle over by the Green Village Fire Department. We had talked about this, I think, several years ago, talking about either naming it Volunteer Way. The group met again and they decided to call it Memorial Way. Albert has done some due diligence in terms of what it takes to be done for this. So we're introducing the ordinance tonight. There's a resolution in here as well, which we will pass presumably tonight. But the idea is so we can do something this Monday on Memorial Day itself, the unveiling as it were. So if anyone has any comments on the ordinance.
I would just like to mention that this is something that had its genesis for many, many months, if not years ago. Green Village has a very proud tradition of Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies, and they have a tremendous presence of the American flag during those very important days in American history. And this one sector of the road adjacent to Myersville Road and Green Village Road has been unnamed. There's no residents along there or businesses, and it just seemed appropriate to pay appropriate homage to the meaning of that area of Green Village anyway. So we're delighted to have been able to do this before Memorial Day when they have their ceremonies. The fire department and their auxiliary did come together with the community to establish that this was the name that they chose. So we're happy to accommodate.
Indeed. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Gallup? Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Rader?
Yes.
Public hearing will be on June 9th.
Great, thank you. Consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Or you want to read them off first, Greg?
This evening, we have Resolution 2016-120, receipt of reports, 121, approving meeting minutes, 122, approving executive session minutes, 2016-123, refunding overpayment of taxes, 2016-124, releasing escrow balances, 2016-125, amending 2016 budget, Clean Communities Grant, 2016-126, authorizing Safe Routes to School grant application, 2016-127, designating Memorial Way, 2016-128, renewing membership in Mars County Co-op, 2016-129, appointing Board of Health member, and 2016-130, renewal of liquor licenses, and 2016-131, approving ownership and continual maintenance of sidewalk, which that one ties in with the Safe Routes to School grant application.
Thank you, Greg. Is there any discussions on the consent agenda?
I have just one question or clarification. I just want to make sure in what we're voting on in authorizing the Safe Routes to School grant that that Greg, tell me if I'm wrong, but notices have gone out to the 16 residents, I believe, that are going to be impacted by this?
Yes, 16 homes plus the PSC&G right-of-way. Notices were sent prior to the last meeting to let everyone know that it was a topic for discussion. And on Monday, I sent notices to the same residents that we expected to approve the submission. And we did get an email from one of the residents, I guess it was yesterday, in which she acknowledged that she did get the follow-up notice. So I do know that...
That was Amanda Feeman, who is there in the Safe Routes to School Committee, who lives along there.
Yes, so I do have...
She's very well aware of it.
Yeah, so I do have reason to believe that the post office did in fact get the notices to the...
Right. Well, it's good to have the confirmation. So we know the notices went out, people have them. But other than Amanda and her neighbor from the last meeting, we have not heard anything from the other 14 residents.
Those are the only two that I heard,
okay.
and that was at the
Very
meeting,
well.
plus the email. I don't know if anyone else heard anything.
And just to understand what we're voting on tonight is just a resolution to go forth to submit the grant. Correct. I just trying to clarify, I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. And in the grant process, that would not include a narrowing of the road. That would include, the grant would be for a sidewalk, whatever the dimensions are.
Yeah, that is correct. We're not proposing to narrow the road at all. It's in the grant cost estimate, I did include a substantial amount of work affiliated with, because some of the grades as you go past the PSC&G right-of-way, they're steep. And I anticipate that we may require some landscape walls. We may require possibly an easement to transitional grading on the home. So I would anticipate that if the grant is received, we would work very closely with the homeowners to improve their property, to work with them and what their best interest is. So we are including retaining walls. We are including extensive costs for replanting landscaping, tree replacement. So we include a substantial amount of money for that.
Right. And I just want to make one other point clear. When you put the grant in, the grant is the grant that you submit. So if we later hear from 11 or 12 of the residents, whatever the number is, that runs from Robin Hill Lane, let's say, to Pine, who are probably the most deeply impacted from home frontage standpoint. We can't go back and say, well, you know what, we'll just run the grant from Robin Hood to Falmouth. Is that correct? In other words, you can't slice and dice the grant. Once you submit it, it's 100% or it's 0%.
That's, if you ask the DOT, absolutely, that's what they want, because they're judging this application with other applications on the merit of that the continuation of this sidewalk with the sidewalk on Pine, so that we're giving all that justification of why we need this grant, and if we turn back and cut it, then we're not really representing the full benefit that you're getting out of the sidewalk. So.
Right. I just want to make sure it's all clear.
I've had done that.
Can I jump in? Because just as an analogy, the Lafayette project, as you know, the very last portion of it going towards Shunpike actually falls within Chatham Borough.
Right.
And there were some issues with jurisdiction and trees and that sort of stuff. And when we met out in the field, there was at least a little bit of discussion about whether or not to stop the project short of there, to stop it at whatever that preceding street is, and I always forget. Enwood. And ultimately, the decision was no. The main purpose of this project is the connectivity to the other side. So to not continue it to the corner would defeat the whole purpose of the grant. And I would say that would apply here as well. The idea is to provide continuous sidewalk from Falmouth to Pine so that people in those neighborhoods have direct access to walk on the south side of Shunpike in a safe way to get to that intersection of Lafayette and Shunpike.
Good.
Well, if we're going to take that one step further, and what we saw in the Lafayette Safe Routes to School grant was repositioning of one sidewalk from one side of Spring Street to the other, too, after substantial negotiation with residents there. So what would...
Well, I have done modifications. It's as long as you're not changing the intent of what the scope of the project is. You know, moving the sidewalk from one side of this road to the other, you're still providing that pedestrian traffic down that road. It's
Yeah,
just a matter
but let's be clear. There's not going to be a circumstance under which we would be proposing to do the sidewalk on the north side of Shunpike instead of the south side, or that DOT would approve that. You know, this application does not have that kind of flexibility.
Yeah, it's a little different. Great.
Because they do have, and just to mention with the current grant, we actually did have the scope including on Dale, and they allowed us to take that out only because we identified that it didn't make sense to go all the way around the corner. We're tying into where the majority of the kids come out on the existing footpath. So, you know, it does allow you to make some minor modifications, but you can't drastically change the scope of the project.
Thank you, John. Anyone have questions?
Just a further clarification. I mean, technically, this vote is for submitting an application for the grant for this project, but it also represents our position as a concept. We think that this fits in with the whole necessary connection that needs to be done in that area to accomplish what we want to do. So there is a conceptual position being taken on the part of the Township Committee in support of this. Now, there's a lot of details that have to be hammered out, but just so there's no misunderstanding on that's what our vote represents.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. Like, this is a continuation of an ongoing policy and decision to try to get sidewalks along Shunpike that goes back at this point. When was the first one we did? 6, 7 years ago? Yeah. So.
And this is also consistent with the bikeway and pedestrian plan that was prepared by the planning board in 2009. So it is consistent with what was planned regarding sidewalk extensions.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
So I'm just going to follow that up with the last resolution then, and the maintenance and the ownership, which is part of the grant process. And where does that leave us, and what does it mean?
What it means, and I believe we shared with you the letter that went with the previous grant application under my signature that said by that we mean we will maintain it free of defects, we will repair it when needed, but it specifically does not include removing snow and ice or leaves and brush and that sort of stuff. That would be ultimately on the homeowners if you ever decide to make that their responsibility. But in the meantime, it would be no one's responsibility to remove snow and ice.
Right, so it doesn't include that, but
Does not.
by doing this, we have not done this before for other sidewalks?
No, we did. The current project, the
current
Lafayette
project,
project, we
Lafayette.
did the same thing.
But does it not de facto make us responsible for all the sidewalks in Chatham Township?
I'm not going to answer that question. I think historically, most of the sidewalks that are on township rights-of-way, we have assumed responsibility for, but not necessarily all of them.
Okay.
And to add in with your question about noticing, in addition to the letters that were sent directly to the homeowners, the Township Committee agendas were posted on the Township website well in advance of both meetings for everyone and anyone to be aware that the topics were being discussed.
Thanks, Ray. Any other questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Gallup?
Yes to all, abstain on 2016-130.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes to all. I am going to abstain from 126 until we hear further from the rest of the residents.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes to all,
Low turnout.
with the exception of, again, 130. Abstain from that one.
Okay, and they all pass.
Great. This time, open the hearing for citizens. Seeing no one coming forward, no one here for that matter, I will close that out. We're going to go to executive session. We've got a couple of items. I'm not sure if we can take any action on these. No action on these, so we'll break for executive session. Oh, sorry, Greg.
Resolution 2016-2-08, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded. Whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Pending litigation, Township of Chatham Affordable Housing Declaratory Judgment Action and Fair Share Housing Centers request for mediation, and contract negotiations, telecommunications land lease. It is anticipated that the minutes on the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13. The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. This resolution shall take effect immediately. And we need a motion and a second.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Mr. Gallup? Yes. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Ritter?
Yes.